Hi, I'm Sarah Baker. Welcome to Mama Stories. I created Mama Stories after seeing how impactful sharing stories can be in overcoming the challenges of motherhood. I am where I am today because of the stories of so many amazing, strong mamas. And I want to share that with anyone I can. So follow along to laugh, cry, and be empowered. Welcome to the show. Today we have a very special guest with us, Christine. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.
Of course. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are?
Sure. So, I am an author and global marketing strategist. I've spent the past 10 to 12 years really researching consumers, and I was researching Generation Y consumers back when they were called Generation Y because I had a retail marketing firm, and the small businesses I was helping was like, I really want to target this new up and coming demographic, this Generation Y. So, I started off with researching those consumers and just followed them through their life events, which led me to being called the number one global voice for working moms because so many millennials, 9,000 babies, are born to millennial moms every day.
Mm.
So I've just been following them through every stage of their lives through home ownership if they've done so, through marriage, some through early divorce. And it's been very exciting. And I, in the past few years, have stepped from behind the consumer insight side and really started to share my own personal story. So I've written two books for mothers and their children, a children's book called Can Mommy Go to Work, which is basically teaching kids about why moms work so hard in the office. And then my novel, Mom AF, which most millennial moms know what that stands for. And
Mm-hmm.
it's basically just a story about me being a type A mom and all of the things that most women deal with when you're trying to juggle work and family and ultimately just owning who you are.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when I first saw the Can Mommy Go Back to Work and I was reading about it, I was like, wait a second, this is a children's book? I thought it was a book for me. And then I was reading it and I was like, oh, she wrote a children's book and she wrote about her motherhood journey, which is
Yeah,
amazing that you casted that net of like, hey, let's start with the kid. Like, let's teach them young about
right.
this working mom. And then now I have a book to support those moms who probably read that book to their kids or got that book
Yeah,
for their kids. That's
yeah. I
awesome.
love Can Mommy Go to Work. I love both books, but Can Mommy Go to Work is near and dear because my grandmother always asked me to write a children's book, and she passed before I did.
Mm.
She asked me when I was 14 to write it, so the book is dedicated to her. And then my children helped me write it. So I read them the draft of it. They picked out what their characters in the book were going to look like down to the color of their sneakers, and they are in the book. So that book holds that's very close to me. That's very
Mm.
near.
That's
Yeah.
sweet. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your grandma, but I'm sure she is
Oh, okay.
looking down saying, I
She
love that
is.
book too.
She is. I know she is.
Very sweet. All right, well, let's go to I know you're saying you, for your work, you did a lot of research on Generation Y, which is what we know as millennials.
Right.
Um, but like, walk me through your motherhood journey. What's kind of like put you on fire to like, how do we reshape a working mom and the view of a working mom?
Yeah, and unfortunately, I feel like my view didn't want to be reshaped until I became a mother. So
Mm,
a lot of what I do and the writing that I do is in the hopes that employers and company peers that don't have children within the office recognize how hard these women do work and kind of break down the misconceptions about them. They are statistically shown to work longer hours, to be more productive and more dedicated to the office, yet everyone feels like there's this soccer mom term which equates to a mother who after she leaves the office does something for her child, which I think is unfair. um, so I really just try to break down those barriers and show that if she has activities that she has to do, like go home to do pickup or start food or anything like that, that doesn't mean that she's not working hours thereafter,
Mm,
logging back onto the computer and working. So it again, it wasn't until I became a mom and really had to face preeclampsia and delivering early and just the
mm,
whirlwind unexpectedly of becoming a mother, and then learning that my employer wasn't even prepared for me to be a mom. I was pumping in a bathroom stall and
oh
had
man.
to learn my own rights in the workplace as a working mother and really advocate for them. That I came to realize how far our country was, how far behind our country was in providing adequate resources for women who have given birth.
Yeah. Well, and I would say that I do want to take a step back from what you just said and kind of give my perspective because before I became a mom, I was working my way up a corporate ladder. And worked with various moms. I worked with people who were getting pregnant, and I always understood that there was like a reason why moms didn't like say they were getting pregnant because
Right.
the stigma, all these things. But I'll never forget. I was in a leadership role, and I had an employee who came to me and didn't want to disclose that she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And she wanted to wait. And I thought, okay. And I thought it was because, the miscarry time and all. And I, again, like super naive,
Yeah.
only knew about it from afar. And then when I saw that when she finally said she was pregnant, how things changed. Like when we
Yeah.
would talk about projects or responsibilities, it would be like, just remember, that person is leaving on this day, or just remember, that person can't travel come this time. And
Right.
it then became this personal conversation. And that was my first time really seeing that. And then sure enough, 7 months later, I'm pregnant and, going through something very similar, but seeing like, wow, I didn't realize that this affects you like even before your child is here from
That's right.
like the less responsibilities, maybe like a smaller seat at the table, like whatever it is. And we
Yeah.
already have a small seat at the table. So now you're like making it even smaller or limiting what that person can do just because they're pregnant or just because they're starting a family.
That's right.
And I don't want to jump around too much because you said something and I want to go back to it later. But um, I believe now that I'm a mom, I could have done the job I was doing better. Like
Yeah.
I would have, if I could redo my years in the corporate ladder today, I would be better for that organization. I would be more like
A
capable of,
leader. Right.
yeah, more of a leader,
Exactly.
understanding. And I never understood that because
Yep.
I had a boss say to me once, and he was a man, and we had a interesting relationship. He's a good guy, but we just butt heads a lot. And I remember he said to me, "Well, when you become a mom, it'll change." And I was pregnant, and I thought, "Okay, come on, like that. I'm not gonna change just because I'm a mom." And now I'm like, shoot, he knew way more about that. And he meant it from a leadership standpoint. He was like, you'll see this differently when you're a mom. And
Yep.
he was totally right. Like I would see that differently as a mom.
Yep. Which is why these women need seats at the table, and we need the diversity of their voice, because motherhood does change you. And I'm always repeating and repeating and repeating, motherhood has changed me for the better. It has improved my career. And when people are asked about their career choices, they learn soft skills like kindness and empathy from their mothers, not their fathers, regardless if the mother worked in an office or not. So it is very important to understand the war between stay-at-home moms and working moms. It really doesn't matter. These mothers really are impacting the children and impacting our leaders.
Yes, they do. They make a really big impact on the world because they're raising, you're right, the future leaders of our world, of our country. Um, and they're just making humans good for society. So
Yep.
it's so important to support them. I do want to touch on, I'd like to get your take on this because I know you're very knowledgeable about this topic and obviously this is your passion. But there is a big divide between a stay at home mom and a working mom. Um, And I feel like I feel that way because I don't really know where I land sometimes because I've got passion projects and things that I work on that occupy my time. Somebody could say that's working, but I also know what working a job is like, and that's not what I do. So, what do you think is the big divide between like stay-at-home moms and working moms? Like, why don't we both kind of understand each other's roles and understand um, to be more gentle when we talk about
Yeah.
them?
Yeah, it probably has a lot to do with just us as human beings and the guilt that we carry. There's a lot of guilt when it comes to motherhood. And, some stay at home moms find the phrase alienating because the working mom phrase originated from mothers who worked full time jobs in offices outside of the home. But with the rise of remote work and flexible work and blogging entrepreneurs and freelancers, I mean, I could be called a stay at home mom because I've been remote working all this week taking care of my son who has the flu and I have a sinus infection right now. So, am I
Mm,
sometimes a stay at home mother? Yes. Am I sometimes a working mother in the office late hours? Yes. I think that even those, like I said, who aren't employed in the traditional sense are still responsible for a variety of tasks. And these women nowadays, it's not just cooking and cleaning and looking great for your husband. They're really lifestyle managers and therapists for their families. They're the ones who hold everything together. I think that regardless of the title, it's important to understand that those women are working too. And all mothers are, in fact, working mothers. There's a talk I give about ending the Cold War because we are on the same side. We are both asking to be understood and heard and to the impact that we are making on our families and our environment to be recognized.
yeah. Well, and I'll give it to you from my perspective. When I first left the workforce and became a mom solely, um, I just remember being in social situations, and people would say, "What do you do?" And I would
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I'm a mom." And that would be the end of the conversation. And what was really hard is before, when I had a really cool title at a really cool company and it was in tech and I was a woman, it would be like, "Oh, tell me more. What do you do?
Right.
Oh, you
Right.
travel?" And it was interesting. And so what's hard is I would say it's whether you've had that experience or not, whether you enjoyed your job or not, or you're happy to be a stay at home mom or you want to be working, whatever it is, I do think that in the way that society represents you is also hard. Like we have to break that almost that like question of like, what do you do for work? Or tell me about
I
like we have to be really intentional when we find a mom who is working or who's not technically working a 9 to 5 and being more curious about what they do and not just stopping at, oh, you're just a mom.
Yes, that's true. But I'm going to push back on you on that a little bit.
Okay, do it.
So, when you said you answered by saying, "Oh, I'm a mom," there's a little bit to me. I don't know if this is like in previous years, and I feel like with social media and mom tribes, women are changing their view of motherhood. But I almost feel like that response of "Oh, I'm a mom" is it's dismissive in itself. There
Mm,
is there was so much more to you at that time than just being a mother. Like I said, you were a lifestyle manager. Your husband may have worked, but you were taking care of the household. There was so much more about you than just
yeah,
saying, "Oh, I'm a mom." And I feel like it goes both ways. I feel that society, yes, you're right, has said, "Oh, she's just a mom because she stays home." And in the past, women did feel that way. So when they were asked that question, they were saying, "Oh, I'm just a mom," or "I'm
yeah,
a mom." Versus today, women are so much more vocal about everything that is involved with staying at home and the tasks that are responsible with it, that they have a lot more confidence and pride in the fact that they are doing so many tasks inside the home. And also, by the way, I'm not just a mom. I'm also somebody who enjoys yoga or enjoys doing activities with my children. I teach my children inside the home. I do X and Y and Z. And I think that there's been a cultural shift with mothers, and I'm very happy about that they are proud of things outside of being a mother and don't answer that question too often nowadays with saying, "I'm a mom."
yeah. yes, thank you for pushing back. I think that that's a really good point, and I'm with you on that. Like, I remember when I first became a mom, I went to my LinkedIn just because that's where before I really hung my value was on work and a title and all of that. So I went and I changed all this like stuff. Like I'm a engineer, I'm a whatever, because I was like, I build train sets. I was trying to be clever. And I'll say personally
Huh.
for me, like this is my own thing and probably a lot of work I have to do, is that also felt really I don't know what the word is. Like it felt really false to me.
Yeah.
Because if I did say that in a social situation, if I said, "Oh, I'm a teacher," someone would be like,
Right.
"Oh, where do you teach at? Who do you teach?"
Right.
So
Yeah.
I
It,
totally get what
it
you're
does sound
saying.
quite dismissive. Yeah, it sounds like it's almost like you're trying to make a joke out of being a mom by posting those positions on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could you and I've seen that before, and that's cute and whatnot, but I think that you should be proud of your professional background. There's nothing wrong with listing on LinkedIn that you still are within that field, especially if you plan to return to work one day. Many women do. I think I read a study where the majority of women, after they give birth, they do plan to return, even the stay at home, the quote unquote stay at home moms. So I don't think it's necessary to, try and be funny or
Yeah.
cute about the LinkedIn profile. You're right. But listen, that is a woman that don't blame yourself for that, because that is definitely a woman thing. I often do that in the office too. It's almost like it's my imposter syndrome
Mm.
and me trying to dismiss and diminish my accomplishments.
Oh, for
it,
sure.
it all it all goes back to that, and I have to remind myself not to make a joke or laugh off compliments that I receive. I still struggle with that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's totally what it is. I mean, we could go on and on about how we
Right.
were raised as women and the impact
Of course.
that has on us for sure. But yes, I get what you're saying. I do think if we want to change that interaction of like, oh, cool, you're a mom, then we have to represent that differently. And not just have to, we should, because we do
Right.
more than that. And that's a
Right.
working mom and that's a full-time stay-at-home mom. Like that's
Yep.
both. I mean,
That's right.
both do a lot of work and do a lot of good
They
work.
do. Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
So one of the things that I read is in your newest book, you Mom AF. It's obviously your story of being a mom and being a working mom, and you walk through your journey. It says like um, times when you had to be like, oh, you got to get your crap together and all that good stuff. One of the questions that I have is around mom guilt. So for me, I totally struggle with mom guilt. I know every mom does. But I can only imagine if you're away from your babies and you're working on this and there's all this pressure of what society tells you that makes you as a mom, and then you need this like time to yourself to decompress.
Yeah.
Like how
Yeah.
can a mom eliminate that type of mom guilt? Because I feel like it's high for me, but I can only imagine if I was doing something else for multiple hours during the day, that would be even harder to get that.
Right. And I faced that this week because I had the sinus infection, and I had my son had the flu, but my daughter was fine. I had to tell her, you can't hug on me, you can't kiss on me. I really, not only am I still running you around to boxing and karate and school,
Hmm.
and I'm working remote, but my body is physically drained from having a sinus infection. So I have to stop and say, I can't be around you right now because I'm feeling sick. And there still was that guilt that came along with that, but I've had to learn over time to be very honest and communicate honestly, especially as a single parent with my daughter. And I feel like I am making her a much more pragmatic human being as a result, and more practical. And I'm happy for that, because I will say to her, even when I'm not sick, I'll sometimes have to say to her, I had to teach her what an introvert and an extrovert was.
Hmm.
I'm a very big introvert. It doesn't seem like it. I become extroverted in communities that I'm comfortable. So, like around Black women and mothers, I'm very comfortable. But in other situations, I'm quite introverted. And I had to explain to her the difference, and tell her when mommy says that she needs alone time and you might see her just sitting on her phone or texting or watching TV, that might seem like I'm doing other things and not wanting to spend time with you. It's not. That's how I'm decompressing. That's how I'm recharging. Because when I am around people, even you, unfortunately, it drains me.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "Oh, I kind of get that. I completely understand because I'm the kind of person where I need to pull from people, and I know she is. She's a high extrovert.
Mm.
So I try to give her her time, and she loves it. Even if she's just sitting watching me on the phone, she loves it because she's near me. But I feel like there's a part of us that we keep trying to protect these children in a world where we can't protect them. We can't shelter them from everything. This is the real world. We are working women. We are trying to balance work and life, and we're still trying to shelter them and keep them from all facets of our life as if we can. When they blend so much, we have no choice but to tell them, I have to work right now. I need alone time right now. It's crazy to me. So I
Yeah.
find that the more honest I am with my child, I think that it'll make our relationship better in the long run, but it makes me more sane, if that
Well,
makes sense.
yeah, and I argue all the time that children are smarter than we
Right.
give them credit for, and they can
Yes, they
handle
are.
more than we give to them. And that's
That's
I err on that side just because that's the only way I know how to do it. Like I have to talk
exactly
things out with Grayson, and he's 2, so he doesn't. I mean, I'm sure there's words I use, and he's like, I don't know what you're saying. Um, but for me, I have to that's how I get my point across. That's how I work things out. And
me
so
too.
I can't, I don't know. I just have always erred on the side that they're just smarter than we give them credit for. So I think it's
Yep.
great. I think it's great to share it with her. And obviously she can start to see how she can relate to that, even if it's in the opposite form.
Right.
She can start to relate to that, which is a good human skill to have. Like
It's
that'll make
it's
her better
teaching
for
her empathy.
society.
Yeah, it's teaching her empathy for sure. And it's funny you said about sharing on words with Grace and with my son. I do that too. And I remember saying to him one time, like, what are you implying? And he was like, I'm implying that I didn't understand what you were just saying. Like he knew what the word meant because I used it so much with him. And he is 5. So I'm telling you, Grayson probably understands.
Well, yeah, it's so funny is he's just entered into this really communicating to the point where I'm like, wow, I've really got to watch what I say around him. Like
Yeah.
even if I'm on the phone with my sister or my friend, I have to be like, oof, really careful about how I describe a person I'm talking about because he's listening. Um, but he started saying something like, actually, no. Actually, yeah. And my husband's like, that's so weird. Where did he get that from? And then 2 days later, my husband's like, I didn't realize you say actually all the time. You
That's
say,
funny.
actually, how about this? Actually, how about that? And now he says, no, I'm supposed to do that. I'm supposed to do that. If we say no, that's not supposed to happen, he'll be like, no, I'm supposed to do that. And so I'm like, I don't know if you actually know what that word means or if we've just used it
Right.
so often you know where to place it in your sentence, but
Right. He's like, that's what you say when you want somebody to do what you want.
yes. Yes. But yeah, it's they pick up on it. They're smarter than we give them credit for sure. They
Yep.
are little sponges just soaking it up, the whole
Yeah.
world. So you're a single mom, and how old
Yeah.
is your daughter and son?
8 and 5.
8 and 5. Okay. And so obviously this is why you um, write these books and that you are this voice for these
Yeah.
women because you're doing it every day. You're in the trenches, but really, how do you do it?
It's tough. I mean, I have my breakdown moments. I had a breakdown this week because I can always juggle a full-time career. I can juggle the writing, I can juggle the speaking, I can even juggle being a single mom. But what I can't juggle is poor co-parenting. And I had a week this week where it was poor co-parenting on my ex-husband's side. And I was already physically sick and it broke me down mentally
Mm,
and physically. And I knew, and I always feel like other women, because I get direct messages all the time of other women's stories, and it brings me to tears sometimes.
mm,
But I felt bad even sharing that part of my life when I felt like my job was to always inspire, inspire, inspire. And I just broke down and told my honest story this week. And I was overwhelmed by the responses that people gave saying it's nothing wrong with sharing your story because there's there's healing from sharing your truth, no matter how hard you or soft you think your truth is. And I can't tell you how better I feel
Yeah.
today, having gone through that and shared it. There is just so true about mom tribes and communities. And I really feel like through social media, especially Instagram, I've built such a community of such loving mothers. And I'm always trying to inspire them and give them kind words. I was so just grateful that they were willing to do the same for me, because
Yeah.
that's the only time I really break down is. And everybody knew it was. It's funny. My therapist knew it was going to happen. My strategists were like, you got a lot going on your plate. Something is going to break you. And I'm like, no, I got it handled. I got it handled. But it's always the co parenting, because that's the one thing I can't control.
Yeah. Yeah. How is that? I mean, how do you guys co-parent? Are you guys like
We don't. It sucks.
you don't? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
we
hard.
don't. It sucks. Right.
Well, actually, that brings me to my next thing I wanted to talk about, where I saw this article where you were being interviewed and you talked about how closing the gender wage gap, we had to close the housework gap.
Yep.
And I thought, first off, you said that and totally was like, yep, like 100%. Because I think that that statement alone goes so much deeper than who's actually doing the laundry. It's like more of the expectations of who is doing the laundry. And that starts when you're
Right.
brand spanking new into this world to everything you see and witness on TV, your home, everything. So
Right.
um, I think it's really great. But so how, I mean, as a single mom, you like there isn't a way of really
No,
closing the work gap.
there isn't. And I have to work that much harder and prove myself in the office so that I am still afforded the opportunities of making enough money that I can hire my own wife, basically. So I don't have a nanny right now, but I do have daycare for my son. He has half day school, so he has daycare. I'm exploring pulling him out of that and getting a nanny so that if he's ever sick, he can just stay home.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you talk about the fact that there is nobody to defer to, like the housework gap is all on me. I think of the prime example of this week, which was the daycare wouldn't allow him to come to school because he's sick, and I understand that, but I
Yeah.
still had to pay for daycare. And the
Oh,
school
wow.
and the school won't allow him to come to school, but he has allergy and asthma problems, so he misses a lot of school. If he misses too many days of school, I will get a letter from the state saying that I'm not sending my child to school. So which one is it? And I feel like
Mm.
that's the problem with our society. You want the moms to stay home with these kids, but at the same time, it's like it's just a mess. It's just an absolute mess. Like, you don't want the kids in school, but you want the kids in school. There's no emergency child care, or there's no adequate solution for mothers in this kind of situation, but at the same time you still have to pay for child care and daycare. It's an absolute mess. The house Just long story short, the housework gap is an absolute mess.
Yeah. Well, and like my sisters have kids in school and one of them's a single mom and the other one stays at home and I mean, but they both have the challenges with like, oh, it's a teacher day today, so no
Exactly.
school, and then it's a holiday, and then it's a early release, and every time they say these things to me, I mean, I have thought like, okay, maybe I'll go back to work at this time and this is what I'd like to do and this is the company I'd like to have and all these dreams. And then I think, gosh, I mean, once Grayson's in school, who knows the days I'll be able to actually
Exactly.
work because I feel like school takes a break more than
They
not.
do. It's like they never want them at school, but at the same time, if the kids aren't in school, you're penalized for it. It makes absolutely no sense, which is why I'm looking into getting a nanny, because it's like, at least if I'm paying for a nanny, she's not going to say, well, Wes can't come to school because he's sick. Well, he's at home.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like we're forcing women to come up with their own. And I know a lot of women who have really creative solutions. A lot of women do shared nannies, but it's hard for us because we're still sacrificing something on the back end. We're not able to work late or spend time networking like like our male counterparts or women without children can. And why? Because we had children? That's very unfair.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think our world, especially in the workforce, doesn't pertain to women when they have children. It
Right.
is it is individuals who can sell their soul to this company rather
Right.
than how do we actually have, I worked at a company that would talk about work-life balance. Like, we're going to have work-life balance. We're going to have work-life balance. And as a, you know, no, I didn't have any kids. I was like, yeah, I've got work-life balance. But if I could imagine myself trying to do what I was doing before, and I worked with moms who did it, I don't think that that existed for them.
Yeah.
And if it did, it existed because they created it. The company did not
Exactly.
help them in that balancing. They created that balance.
Right. And we're penalized on both sides because sometimes the employer is doing it and sometimes it's childcare and education. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous that childcare is as much as rent in some instances for mothers. That is absolutely ridiculous,
Yeah.
which is why women are forced to go back to work. They have no choice.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I mean, I hear that a lot too. Like, whenever there's talk about like a working mom and a stay-at-home mom, a lot of working moms say like, I didn't want to go back to work. I just can't afford to
Right.
not go back to work. And that's what makes sense for their family. Or vice versa, like there's a stay-at-home mom that they can't they can't afford to go back to work because
Right.
childcare is so much and maybe their job didn't pay them as much as they wanted or whatever it was. I mean, that was a big thing for me. I started to look at childcare or a nanny, and we're in the Seattle area, so it's expensive to hire an employee or hire a nanny or go to a reputable daycare. And
Right.
I was like, wow, at some point, I think my paychecks would literally be going to pay for this care. So why not just not pay for the care and stay home?
Right.
That was a big thing. It's crazy. Well, I appreciate you sharing the struggles that you've had this week because I think what that shows is I can, obviously look at Instagram, read all these articles, read about your books, and be like, wow, this person has figured it out. Like, you have
Oh.
mastered this working mom. And I think it's really cool that moms can hear this voice of like, when we're working on something, especially as moms, I don't think there actually is like an end game. It's just the journey of how we better ourselves through that versus
That's
like
right.
there's no end destination to like balancing being a working mom or whatever it is that you're trying to, do. It's just the journey of getting there and how you can be kind and, resourceful to yourself versus going in the negative route.
Absolutely. The smartest thing someone ever told me is you're a new mom every day because you don't know what it's like to parent a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 year old. You
Yeah.
just mastered what it is to parent a 4 year old. You just mastered what it is to parent a 3 year old. But you're going to learn something new every day and there's going to be a new obstacle every day. So just be a little bit more kind to yourself. Give yourself some credit for the fact that you're learning how to be a mother all over again.
Yeah. Yeah. Also in
And
that
I
art.
wish you the best with terrible twos and three majors.
Oh yeah, I'm not. Three nagers. Oh,
Yeah.
that's what you call it. Yeah, I've heard a lot about the threes. I'm not there yet, and I'm not looking forward to it.
Don't. Don't because effing fours is right after that, and God bless you for that.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. Every time I step into a new season in motherhood, I like really look around. And I'm like, why didn't anyone tell me? Like, you
Right.
guys are just hiding this like secret from me of what's happening next. And I don't know
Right.
why.
Yep.
No, man. In that article, when you were talking about the gender wage gap, obviously, having that housework gap be closed was a big thing. But then you also talked about like the ability to work from home and then having flexible jobs like job sharing. Do
Yeah.
you see, like in your work and in your research, do you see that companies are at least like trying to go that way or at least like having open conversations about what that might look like for a mom?
Yeah, I've seen open conversations about what that would look like for anybody who is dedicated to the organization. Typically because of where they are personally, that does tend to be parents or older professionals. But it's different from flexible work. It really requires commitment on from both employees and commitment to the employer to provide a, a fulfilling and enriched experience. So it's definitely a future forward thinking trend. It's not popular by any means, but it
Mm.
is adopted a lot by mothers.
Yeah, I wish there was more things like that because I do think that it can just make your life a lot different. I had a friend recently who just switched to working from home. I mean, and she is a badass and has always been and worked really hard at a, place where she had to be physically somewhere all day and then luckily switched companies and got a promotion and was able to stay at home and it has completely changed for her. I mean, it's still challenging to do that, but when she has types of things you're talking about where kids are sick or school is out or a snow day, she can still do both. And I think that's
Yeah,
also the beauty of moms is that moms can do both. They can
yeah,
work and work productively and take care of their babies at the same
yeah.
time. And I wish employers recognize that because it's a benefit to them only, really.
Yep, they are extremely resourceful, extremely.
Yeah. Well, and they have a stronger why. I think that's always been even before I was a mom and I would work with other moms, I would always say and advocate and talk about how their why is much stronger than mine. Like
Yeah.
my why is like why I get up and go to the gym and why I do this. Like they have actually humans that they're raising that are their why. And I think that produces more productivity than a standard individual who
Right.
has other things that might be their why, but not raising a human and the demands of what that is.
Or caregiving, period. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, one of the things I want to talk about before you go is you created something called Mompreneur and Me.
Yes.
And I do want you to talk about that, but I watched the video and I just want you to know I love so much that you not only are doing the work and sharing the work and being an advocate for it, but you're also infecting change by creating things like this because you actually provide childcare,
Yes.
which I think
My
is like
birthday is my baby. Yes.
the best thing ever. So tell us about Mompreneur and Me.
Yeah. So when I was interviewing women for articles, and every time I spoke at an event, I would notice that there were women in the room who talked about they hope to be mothers one day, or there weren't a lot of women in the room who were mothers. So the conversation didn't seem like it really resonated. And I would always try and get feedback. And a lot of the feedback I was getting was the mothers weren't able to come due to not having childcare, or they wish they could have attended, but they didn't have a sitter. And I felt like, again, trying to speak to that housework gap and childcare being the biggest part of that, how can I make it so that these women are developing themselves professionally for free with childcare on site?
Mm.
So I went to some of the brands that target mothers and talked about Mompreneur and Me back in 2015, and we started in Baltimore. And 5 years later, we're still going. This year, we have a fabulous partner who is committed to working mothers and committed to furthering their education. I'll be announcing who that is in March. Last year, we were so lucky to have McDonald's and Suja Juice and Sur La Table and Tessa Mays and a number of different brands really not only sponsor the event, but provide the mothers with tools and resources and swag, on top of that.
Mhm.
I was so happy because not only did we have CEO women like the CEO of Influencer come out and speak, but the mothers were so excited that not only was the event free, not only were they hearing from a CEO of a company that just was bought, but they got swag on top of that. It was completely free for them and they got swag. So
Yeah.
it's I encourage all mothers because it is completely free. There is no cost to you to sign up for our mailing list. We share resources and tools, and we do have events.
That is so cool. Do you guys ever expand like outside? Like do you go to
Oh
other
yeah.
states, other cities?
Yeah, so this year's event is going to be in DC, but last year we did a 6 city tour.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, well, I'm definitely going to sign up for that. I just think it's cool because even if you're not a working mom, like being in the community, but like you want, that's maybe your goal, or maybe you've been thinking about some sort of like side hustle or whatever it is. And
Or you just need to meet a new mother. There's
yes,
nothing can come out. I always say it's for working moms, stay at home moms, boss moms, mompreneurs, everybody in between. As long as you want to learn and you want to have a good time, come on out. We've done everything from mommy and me yoga with the kids to a gym class in Brooklyn to a cooking class in DC, which you saw. It's just a really it's honestly my favorite. We do it in the summer, and it's my favorite thing to do in the summer because it's just so fun to meet other moms and their kids.
it's so cool. I just think it's so cool that you're, again, I think so many people preach it because it's really easy to talk about. Like for me, I can talk about it all day long, but I'm not sure I'm doing anything to really change it or be an advocate or any of that. But like you actually are putting together an event that is 100% geared towards moms, which is,
Yeah.
and a lot of moms being away from their kid, whether it not be a financial issue, it also can be like a physical thing. Maybe they aren't ready to do that. I remember when I was a new mom and I really wanted to get involved in some of the groups that were going on, but they were like adults only or moms only. I just wasn't ready to let my son be with anyone else. It just wasn't where I was
Yeah.
from like a
And that's the other
physical
thing.
place, right? So like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted him at least in the same building as I was.
That's right.
And
Yep.
so
I see
being
that a
able,
lot too.
yeah, being able to get that for moms, that's so cool. I love that.
Thank you.
Well, I feel like I'm your new biggest fan
Oh,
because
thank you.
I love
Thanks,
what you're
Sam.
doing. I think that I just think it's so cool. I love that you are taking a topic that I think a lot of companies need to talk about, need to figure out, and you're almost forcing that with being so vocal and doing things like this, writing books and getting, doing different interviews, talking about gender wage gaps and really addressing what is the issue. And then ultimately, your mompreneur and me. I think it's so cool.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah.
Of course. Well, I really hope that your week gets better, that you feel more rested, because I
Thank
know
you.
that being a mom is hard, and being a single mom and a mom boss, I can't even imagine. That's a lot of
That's
hard
okay.
work.
I got a Snickers bar and a Coke here, and I'm gonna rip it up.
There you go,
So,
girl. There you go.
right.
Okay, well, before we go, I do have one final question for you.
Okay.
If you could take everything you've done from the beginning of being a mom to today, what's the one piece of advice you would want to give to all the mamas out there?
Definitely what I said earlier, which is you're a new mom every day. So give yourself credit for it.
Mm.
The fact that you don't know what it means to parent a teenager, or you don't know what it means to juggle a new career or a new city while having an infant or having a 4-year-old. You could be a mother of two or three. Parenting the first child at 5 is going to be different from parenting the second child. So we tend to just beat ourselves up so much. And like you said, it's a journey. It's not supposed to be perfect, and there is no end perfect vision of work life balance. It doesn't exist. So,
Mm-hmm.
I even have to tell myself this all the time. Just don't beat yourself up. Take it day by day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think self-talk, positive self-talk is it's a journey I'm on for sure. And I think that's
Yeah.
the thing is it's never really fully you're never going to not say something negative to yourself.
Right.
It's just how do you get better at removing that and get quicker at stopping that
That's right.
in your head. I think that's really important. And I do love that you said that because you are a new mom every day. I mean, Grayson, he's only 2 and there has been times that he has completely shifted from like a nap. He goes down for a nap as one kid and then he wakes up and that kid's gone and this new kid's here and he's got some
Right.
new skill and some new behavior that we either have to like work out or figure out how to
Right.
help. Like it's hard and it hits you quicker
Yeah.
than you would think sometimes.
Right. You're teaching somebody how to navigate the world. Like, how freaking hard does that sound? That is hard. It's
I don't
hard to
even know how to
do.
navigate the world.
Exactly. So imagine trying to teach somebody else to do it. That's my very point. So
Yeah.
we should be a little bit kinder to ourselves.
Yes, that's very true. We should. You're right. Man, well, Christine, I cannot thank you enough. You are truly amazing, and I'm going to make sure that everything is linked below in the description, and then obviously you can find it on our Instagram page, but you can check out the 2 books. Can Mommy Go to Work is a children's book, and then Mom AF is her newest book, talking all about how she does motherhood. And then,
Yes.
of course, you can sign up for Mompreneur and me on the link below.
Yeah. Thank you for having me again. I'm really thankful.
Oh, of course. Anytime you come back, we'll talk
Will
about all the
do.
things.
Will do.
Thank you for listening. I really hope you enjoyed it. Now, if you're hooked, you can subscribe to this podcast, follow along on social media at The Mama Stories, or visit the website, mamastories.com. And mamas, I love you.